So good evening and good morning. Let's begin the reading and reflection session. And as we begin, invoking Sri Aurobindo and Mother's grace and presence, the presence which is always there, yet I forget it's there. And when I consciously invoke it, I feel that presence more. It is said that it's not enough to just offer our beings to them, our being to them, our action to them. We must be aware, they say, of that force which is acting through us, their force which is acting through us. Thank you. So, in case there's any, hopefully, if there's any sharing, anything, please let me know. And in case you need to be made the host, I'll do that. Otherwise, we have some few things lying around. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I was reading Mother about anger, how to control anger. So, in that, Mother has said the very first step towards weakening the power of anger in the nature and afterwards getting rid of it altogether is to refuse all expression to it in act or speech. So, I was having the idea that if anything is coming on the mind, so we must satisfy that, and then probably it will go off after this. But that is not the case. Mother says that this concept is wrong. That is a mistaken idea, Mother has said. Yes. So I would like to request everyone how they have controlled their angers step by step, if anybody has done. And not only the anger, the Mother says, and also with all other wrong movements. There are so many wrong movements we are doing, and we understand that it is wrong, but as if I've lost control over it, dictated by something, maybe the lower vital or something. So how to get rid of this, if anybody has got? Thank you.
You have asked a very easy question, Captain. Thank you. Yeah, would anybody like to share their experience with trying to or the success of getting over, reducing any wrong movements or anger? Captain is initiating a good discussion and sharing. So, yes, Charuji.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this beautiful question, Captain. My daughter and me had COVID 2 years back, and my husband was the only person who can, give food, and he was doing everything. We were locked in the room. But he was so patient with us, whatever we asked, he used to give. But still, I used to get angry with him because if I call him from the room, he will not be able to hear. So I will shout. And because, I'll be behind the door, he'll be outside, but he will not be able to hear. But still, I will get angry. One day, 2 days, it went like this. And suddenly I was thinking, see, this person is doing so much. One corner Meera was staying, and the other corner of the room I am staying. 2 rooms were occupied, and poor person he is running from this room to that room. Why am I shouting? Because it's obvious that he will not be able to hear, but still I was having angry. I was having anger. I could see my anger coming. Then I just realized I was just, stepping back and thought, no, I should not get angry. This person is, really struggling to, manage home. And, from the next moment, I started controlling my anger. And we in Hasta Mudra, we were taught, to, if you are angry, you just hold this finger tightly, your not ring finger, the big tall finger. Just hold this finger and close your eyes, watch your breath. So I started doing that. Slowly my anger was coming down. So after that, I realized I should not shout, I should not get angry. Not only shout outwardly, but even inside, I was not agitated. And day before yesterday it happened. He was saying something and I was saying something, and suddenly I just threw something on the table. Then I felt very ashamed. What am I doing? Why am I behaving this way? Then I said sorry, I couldn't control my anger. Then after getting angry only I realized. Then I was just holding my finger like this and sitting. Then we both laughed, and for a few fraction of second, that anger, I could see how the anger rises from my inside. So I think this is work in progress. We have to keep doing. Yeah, thank you, Captain.
Yes, anybody else? Okay.
So I think not giving expression to it is important, right? I think what Charuji said, yeah, of course, that is the awareness comes, but just stepping back, sometimes we are caught in the moment, right? And if we receive a blow, uh, especially if we receive a blow, we want to respond back, right? So that may take a little time because, and there are also these forces that want to do this to you, right? That is something that we, at least on the path, should know. They're always wanting to, Mother calls them agents of sincerity, but their job is to just, they're going to test you. You have to realize that. They will come with people you meet, people you know, people you work with. And so I think first, just do not give expression to anything. Because I think if we can control speech, it is a big progress. Then slowly one can master the feeling of any, and the emotion itself, where even if it arises, it maybe goes away quickly. Just you just kind of if it's replaced with like a samatha equanimity, just like something came, it disturbed it, and then you just basically come back into your, and you can call mother's name, or whatever works, I guess. But I think if you give expression, especially, then it's like you have lost at that point. And one sees ourselves, it happened to me many times, but you feel quite bad after that you let, you basically, you allowed your consciousness to drop so low at that point, which is really what you're doing. So you've shifted the center of consciousness to a very low point. And that then, is the what you get upset by, right? So just that's something I thought I could add.
Yes.
Mother said the next step means like the first step is to get rid of altogether, is to refuse all expression to it in act or speech. The next sentence is not very clear to me. That is, afterwards, one can go on with more likelihood of success to throw it out from the thought and feeling also. So how that takes place? Afterwards, one can go on with more likelihood of success to throw it out from the thought and feeling also. Practically, how this can be approached.
So when you think, Captain, that's just such a beautiful question. When you think, how will it go from thought or feeling? When one realizes, there is sometimes, you can feel sadness for the other person also because they are suffering, right? And there is, they are caught, we are, whatever we can call it, mother's grace, that we know these forces, they are getting pulled by these forces, you know, completely as puppets, right? And you are seeing that person being pulled. So then you're like, okay, this it's in a way it's sad, but then you also realize this is the human state, and maybe, they each has to progress on his own time. We don't know, right? We are all these seeds that are flowering into, trees or growing into trees. So if one sees that, then how can you be angry, right? Because you that how there's a feeling emotion, because you see, okay, somebody's doing it out of ignorance, right? Basically, that's all it is. You're doing it, you're doing an action, an outburst or whatever you want to call it, out of ignorance. So it's like you're shouting at a child because, maybe he's in the first standard and you're asking him a question of fifth standard math, and you're saying, how you don't know this, right? And you're getting upset that he's not able to answer. It's something similar. I'm just saying, the person is not going to be able to do it. If you give them gyan also, it will not work, right? If you give them all this knowledge and all, best just keep quiet, right? And actually, if you see, if you keep quiet, it has a power, especially if you're not moved, it has a power. And if you don't hold anything, any kind of, resentment, nothing. In fact, you can, send out like, let them be at peace, then that is the best thing you can do for them. Now, whether they receive it or not, that's a different thing. But it's, to me, it's like the only remedy one can use. But yeah, and Mata's written so much about it. We can read from her writings. I think that would be nice.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal.
Thank you. Captain, in the looking from within, I don't know if you know, we do a book study called Looking from Within. These days it happens on Saturdays at 4 p.m., but I'm planning to make it 5. So there's a section called Obstacles, Ordeals, and Difficulties. And in this section, difficulty of the character, I mean, a lot, I guess it would answer your question because, whatever we say, we all are still, we get affected. We still, there are things that, we think we have overcome, and a new wave comes and we again fall. So it's not that here we are, there's anybody who, I don't know, I can be wrong, but I'm just assuming that we're all still battling. And so going to the words from the masters, I feel would have the most authentic information and the power to change. So a very beautiful passage from Sri Aurobindo as to how to do it. And then Mother in the next passage explains the steps through which one can overcome things. So in case, Captain, if you would like to read this one, we can read it. It's good to read it again and again.
So if you can kindly post this.
No, it's fine. We can read it. I will post it too. But
Yeah.
since you have asked the question and it's a topic that we all
Yeah.
always want to know more and transcend, we can take it up in detail.
Okay. Uh, the difficulties of the character persist so long as one yields to them in action when they rise. One has to make a strict rule not to act according to the impulses of anger, ego, or whatever the weaknesses may be that one wants to get rid of. Or if one does act in the heat of the moment, not to justify or persist in the action. If one does that, after a time, the difficulty abates or is confirmed purely to a subjective movement which one can observe, detach oneself from, and combat.
So, Sri Aurobindo uses like the least words to express the maximum, and the same thing in a way Mother is now saying in the next 4 pages.
Yes, yes.
So this was your question, right? Basically
Yeah,
that how to
absolutely.
so yeah, so this character, these difficulties like anger, and they are so sticky, so sticky. So he's saying that one has to make a strict rule, like it has to be, how it's like when a kid is growing up, when a child is growing up, there are certain rules in the house that, we have that these are non-negotiables. This you cannot do. So strict rule not to act according to the impulses of anger, ego, or whatever the weakness may be that one wants to get rid of. So first thing is to know that there is something in me which I want to get rid of. Because most of us, we don't even know. We feel we are good. It's the world that need, the cleanup. So first we know, then we aspire, right? Okay, I want this to be transformed. I don't want this. This causes too much misery. So when we know we want to get rid of it, our focus is on that. So then we make a strict rule not to act according to the impulses of anger. So the important thing is that knowing us, he knows that if one does act in the heat of the moment, right? Because we know we don't want to be angry. We do know, all of us know. And yet, if we do end up being angry in the heat of the moment, Sri Aurobindo says, not to justify, because a lot of times we say that, I couldn't help it, or, it had to be done, or I was right, he was wrong, he was wrong. We and our stories and our dramas that we were reading about, so if I justify it, I increase its strength. If I persist, as soon as I realize that, oh, I'm being angry again, a lot of times we can stop then. And yet our ego says, Ore, up to, I'm in the battlefield. How do I back up from there? So he says that the moment you realize it, the moment, after the basic thing is done, do not justify or persist in the action. So this was very important. I felt that stop when you can, stop where you can, and know it was wrong. Nothing can justify that. And he says if one does that, after a time the difficulty abates or is confined purely to a subjective movement which one can observe, detach oneself from, and combat. So that state will slowly, slowly come. In a lot of situations where we have worked, it comes. And yet, in this inner transformation, in this fight, we see that a lot has to be done again and again, right? Like it's like if I have overcome something, it doesn't overcome, it's not all inclusive, it's not universal. I have to apply the same principles or different ones and the different or same rules again and again to transcend things. Yeah, any reflections are welcome. And if nothing else, we can also take up the next one since we are discussing it. So the next passage is from the mother. If anybody has the capacity, we can take up. It's very simple, although it's a bit long. So anybody, if they would like to read, we can please read. We
Okay,
can pause
I'll
after
read.
every paragraph. Yes, Captain.
Even the most beautiful theories, even if one knows mentally many things and holds admirable principles, that is not sufficiently strong to create a will capable of resisting an impulse. At one time, you are quite determined. You have decided it would be thus. For example, that you would not do such a thing. It is settled. You will not do it. But how is it that suddenly you do not know how or why nor what has happened? You have not decided anything at all. And then you immediately find in yourself an excellent reason for doing the thing. Among others, there is a certain kind of excuse which is always given. Well, if I do it this time, at least I shall be convinced that it is very bad and I shall do it no longer, and this will be the last time. It is the prettiest excuse one always gives to oneself. This is the last time I'm doing it. This time I'm doing it to understand perfectly that it is bad and that it must not be done, and I shall not do it anymore. This is the last time. Every time it is the last time, and you begin again.
Yeah, so
Of
just
course,
sitting here just for a bit of reflection. So I think this we all understand, right? That the theories, they appear to be beautiful. We all know the basics. We all know the basic steps we have to take and how bad it is. And yet, somehow, we just get carried over. We just get influenced, like Vishal was talking about the forces, right? So this is knowing that just knowing is not sufficient because I will not be able to resist an impulse. So that awareness, I guess, mother is saying is the first step. So then it is the determination that you would not do it. And suddenly one sees that when the moment comes, it just takes over and I feel justified. This is what Sri Aurobindo was saying, that do not justify what you have done or what you were doing. So this would never work. Every time you would say, okay, just let me do it one more time, or this is justified, it would just persist longer.
should I continue?
Yes, please.
Of course, there are some who have less clear ideas and who say to themselves, after all, why don't I want to do it? These are theories. They are principles that might not be true. If I have this impulse, what is it that tells me that this impulse is not better than a theory? It is not for them the last time. It is something they accept as quite natural. Between these two extremes, there are all the possibilities. But the most dangerous of all is to say, well, I am doing it once more this time, but this will purify me of this. Afterwards, I shall no longer do it. Now, the purification is never enough. It happens only when you have decided, well, this time I am going to try not to do it, and I shall not do it. I shall apply all my strength and I shall not do it.
Yeah, we'll pause here, Captain, just because if we just read, sometimes we get distracted. So just pausing here.
Yes.
if we keep just saying this, right? That's what mother is saying, let me just do it one more time or experience it, or, just getting over with it, it's easier. Otherwise, I keep fighting with myself. So any excuse that we might be giving ourselves, it doesn't help. This purification that I'm looking for, or this easy way out I am looking for, it would not help me in transcending it. And now mother gives the key. Well, if you change this to, well, this time I'm going to try not to do it, and I shall not do it. I shall apply all my strength and I shall not do it. So, not choosing the easiest way, not choosing the habitual patterns, not choosing the slippery slopes which have delight and pleasure and ups and downs, but choosing that, affirmation that it's like a tapasya, right? The tap, that no, I come what may, I shall not do it. So that's one of the things that one can hold on to. So yeah, please, you can, if you want. Otherwise, anybody who's ready can read.
Thank you.
Yeah, would anybody like to read from, even if you have just a little success?
Yeah, Taru, I will read.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just a second. Just a second. Yeah. Even if you have just a little success, it is much. Not a big success, but just a small success, a very partial success. You do not carry out what you yearn to do, but the yearning, the desire, the passion is still there, and that produces worlds within, but outside you resist. I shall not do it. I shall move. I shall not move. Even if I have to bind myself hand and foot, I shall not do it. It is a partial success, but it is a great victory, because due to this, next time you will be able to do a little more. That is to say, instead of holding all the violent passions within yourself, you can begin calming them a little. And you will calm them slowly at first with difficulty. They will remain long. They will come back. They will trouble you, vex you, produce in you a great disgust, all that. But if you resist well and say, no, I shall carry out nothing. Whatever the cost, I shall not carry out anything. I will stay like a rock. Then, little by little, that thins out, and you begin to learn the second attitude. Now, I want my consciousness to be above those things. There will still be many battles, but if my consciousness stands above that, little by little, there will come a time when this will return no longer. And then there is a time when you feel that you are absolutely free. You do not even perceive it. And then that is all. It may take a long time. It may come soon. That depends on the strength of character, on the sincerity of the aspiration. But even for people who have just a little sincerity, if they subject themselves to this process, they succeed. It takes time. They succeed in the first item, in not expressing. All forces upon earth tend towards expressing themselves. These forces come with the object of manifesting themselves, and if you place a barrier and refuse expression, they may try to beat against the barrier for a time, but in the end, they will tire themselves out and not being manifested, they will withdraw and leave you quiet.
Yes, Charuji, we'll stop here. It's a long paragraph.
Yeah.
So just mother is making us aware of all the nitty-gritties, that happen, that I might feel that, oh, it's just happening to me. Oh, it's just too much for me. And yet this is universal. This is what happens to all of us. This is the way, this is the process. There is a summit and there is a treacherous path to that summit, and we all have to walk it. So, staying like a rock when you have decided is one thing that would increase our consciousness. And this also I found to be very beautiful that mother says that the success depends on the strength of my character. How strongly am I willing to battle those impulses? How strongly am I willing? How strong is my resolve to stay like a rock, and on the sincerity of the aspiration, how badly I want it, how much I'm longing for that transformation. So these are the two things. And this is our saving grace that even if, we are not fully as sincere as possible as we can, still, even with a little bit of sincerity, if we subject ourselves to this process, we succeed. That we stop the action, and then slowly the other things match that. And mother tells us that all the forces, when you say no, there would be a lot of banging on the door, and we have to go through it. That is the process. And just the last thing, this is also in the sunlit path. We have read it. And so the basic passage being that, we mostly feel that I'll first purify my thought, purify my body, purify my vital, and then later I shall purify my action. That is the normal order, but mother says it never succeeds. So then the order is to begin from the outside. The very first thing is that I do not do it. And afterwards, I desire it no longer. And next, I close my doors completely to all impulses. They no longer exist for me. I'm now outside all that. This is the true order, the order that is effective. First, not to do it, and then you will no longer desire, and after that, it will go out of your consciousness completely, the mother.
Charu, I posted a link. There's one small extra paragraph. Can we read from there?
Yeah, I'll just pull it up.
I'll tell you where.
Do you see this?
Search. It's on the chat.
No, I have already opened it. Do you see it or no?
I'm seeing looking from within.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, then search for anger comes from the outside. Anger comes from, yeah, and then go down a little bit. The next, yeah, this one. Let's read this.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah, would you like to read it?
Sure. Somebody else wants to read? This one.
I'll read.
Sure. Go ahead.
I think you have always had an idea that to give expression to an impulse or a movement is the best way or even the only way to get rid of it. But that is a mistaken idea. If you give expression to anger, you prolong or confirm the habit of recurrence of anger. You do not diminish or get rid of the habit. The very first step towards weakening the power of anger in the nature and afterwards getting rid of it altogether is to refuse all expression to it in act or speech. Afterwards, one can go on with more likelihood of success to throw it out from the thought and feeling also. And so with all other wrong movements.
Yeah, keep going, Captain.
So this is the original article, Vishal, that Captain had shared, I think, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
But let's read the next one. That's very good. All these movements come. Let's read that. That's what is important.
All these movements come from outside, from the universal lower nature, or are suggested or thrown upon you by adverse forces, adverse to your spiritual progress. Your method of taking them as your own is again a wrong method. For by doing that, you increase their power to recur and take hold of you. If you take them as your own, that gives them a kind of right to be there. I send them away.
No, if you
I
feel
you
as
feel them
no,
as
sorry, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
you feel them as not your own, then they have no right, and the will can develop more power to send them away. What you must always have and feel as yours is the will, is this will, the power to refuse assent, to refuse admission to a wrong movement, or if it comes in, the power to send it away without expressing it. If you find it difficult to reject in the sense of throwing away, what you have to do is to refuse assent. As, for instance, as regards voices or suggestions, not to listen to them, not to believe what they want you to believe, not to do what they want to push you to do. Of course, the best way will be if you can keep the contact mode with the mother and her light and force and receive and accept and follow only what comes from that higher force. Secondly, to keep the mind quiet, not to allow it to be too active, going from one thing to another. That brings the confusion.
To this point, this is very beautiful what Shubham was saying that and we often feel that, right? That, oh, I got angry, right? We say that also. And, but if you see actually, and it's quite evident, I mean, if we look at it, you see, you were just perfectly calm. I mean, this just happened to me, a couple of weeks, and I was like just amazed, like, and regardless of whatever the other person is doing, I mean, I'm like, what is this? You just felt like you were a pawn and just being swayed, like, without any control, and literally, it's like something came from the outside, took a hold of you, and it's like you allowed the person to come in, right? Obviously, there is something in you, there's an opening that lets them come in. But at least if you know that this is not something that is you, right? It is, as Shubham is saying so beautifully, it is much easier to reject something that is external to you, as opposed to you believing that it is part of you. We all are divine. We are her emanations. So now, so if you see, okay, these things are coming, and okay, that you realize, okay, and mother has written a lot about not having this too much guilt, but to be okay, well, it happened, it came, it's going to take time. And I think the other thing, I think somewhere she's written is offer it to the mother also. Let's say, mother, please, you offer that thing, whatever it is, whatever lower vital impulse is there, it could be something else also. You offer it to her and say, she'll work it. She'll work it. She'll make sure it may take whatever time, but I think if one is sincere, she will put circumstances which will force you to become better and better. I think we all will experience that in our lives. If one is sincere, any lower vital thing you may have, if you sincerely offer it to the mother, she will put you in circumstances that will make you better. You may not like that. It may not be easy sometimes. But after some time, one notices, now this is not the same as it was maybe a year back. So that is, if one can offer to the mother, she really does all the sadhana anyways.
What I've noticed with myself is, just identifying, being on the path of self-reflection a lot of times lately. I always like to believe that I'm very cool-tempered, I'm very easygoing, and what I've finally come to realize is, how we fool ourselves into these things, right? Okay, I am good, and when I'm bad, it's because the world outside is bad. So there's this person who is, for whatever reasons, always angry, upset, loses the calm. A simple conversation is always very argumentative, and it's a close relationship. So the interactions are also quite a few for me with that person. And I would always believe that, oh, I always am good, but then the person goes totally haywire, and that's why I react in a way which is not very typical of me. So all my interactions where I have gotten angry are because of that other person. And I think we live in this denial for such a long time that we never end up working on it. And of late, because I have identified that it couldn't be just that person, right? It has to be something within me which holds anger as well. There's a lot of elements in me that is waiting to react to such events, right? So it can't be totally foreign, it can't be totally external. So having understood that, um, and deciding to work on it, I realized that to just say, okay, I'm going to be cool the next time the person opens the mouth is not very easy on me as well. So there are obviously certain triggers. And it started with just distancing myself from that person, limiting the conversations until I felt I was now on much more stable ground. I have reflected over my own weaknesses and shortcomings. I've kind of identified the triggers in order to now probably have a conversation and yet identifying, oh, it's still a slippery slope for me. So it's a process. It's not something that happens overnight, and different people obviously have different ways of handling it. But I think throwing the blame outside totally is not the way forward for me, at least. It starts with, like I remember somebody mentioned, I remember my school days when teachers would say, oh, that person will jump into a well, will you jump? And like I come back to that point where you see somebody taking a poison, you're not going to emulate that, right? So what makes you emulate the person's hatred and anger is obviously something within you. So if you identify that, if you identify your triggers, I guess there's scope of improvement for me. And I'm on that path where I've again, started contact with the other person and seeing my own responses, tempering it, and realizing, oh, I'm still the old Deepa. I still get triggered, and taking a step back until I can reach that point of complete stability, equanimity, and yeah, a little more control of and I sometimes feel, well, is it control? It shouldn't be control also. Control of your senses. It just should be something where it doesn't shake you anymore. It doesn't disturb you anymore. Even control seems at times a little artificially built on. And I think the ultimate, it could start from there, but I think the ultimate place would be where you don't get shaken by these events anymore.
Yes, thank you, Deepa. You took me back to school times as well. This was the most heard comment that if one person would jump in the well, will you follow? Yeah. Mm.
And there was a quote in the one of these calendar messages um, on Saturday, which was one of the chief obstacles to our establishment of a progressive harmony is our eagerness to prove to an opponent that he is wrong and we are right, the mother.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
feel that so often in anger, that's exactly what's happening. It's it's like if I observe myself, I'm trying to sort of, my whole ego thing is like, I am right and you are wrong. And then that's where, and so as soon as one sort of, I feel just in that observation that, okay, am I just trying to prove the other opponent wrong? I mean, I may even have stopped believing what I started the argument about anyway. And I'm beginning to see the point of view from the other person, but the ego kind of can take over, and you just continue. Um, so it's that in that quietness, stepping back, um, just that observation of myself. What is the weakness that I'm being asked to discover in myself? Um, Helps me, I feel.
Thank you, Shilpa. Yeah, Vishal, are you wanting to add something?
No, no, that was so true, very
Okay.
true. Thank you for,
Yeah.
yeah, to prove that they are wrong and I am right. Yes, that's so beautiful. I remember that reading from mothers on that also. And I mean, it's really amusing actually, when one sees sometimes, even looks back later, and you just, I mean, I think it's just at some point, you realize like this is just like we are just being moved. I mean, that's the part that I always kind of feel like after the fact. I mean, it's like हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कठपुतली, like we are like that. I mean, you're literally being taken like this and swayed. It's like that puppeteer is like saying, you go here, you're going to go here, you go there, you're going to go there, and we have no control. And that's what Shubham is saying, right? You, if you have the will, it says the Anumanta, right? You can refuse. But that's where that I think the whole stepping back, I think somebody mentioned the witness attitude is so important.
Yes, thank you. Now that aphorism of Sri Aurobindo, that where he says that when I move beyond knowings, then I shall have the knowledge. Reason was the helper, reason is the bar. So, this whole thing of I, the ego, my opinions, my rights, this is right, this is wrong, takes away our peace, right? Kind of helps us, and not help us, but makes us weak and helps us fall again, because my wanting to prove the right from wrong, which is right in my opinion, is often the base, what Shilpa very beautifully expressed, is the base that why I get angry. Because if I'm trying to control something or transcend something, I need to know the roots, right? The no, root is either frustration, right? I want to do something and I am unable to. So this I think this is right, the other is crazy. It's absolutely unacceptable. I have to get angry, or they must know. So all those things, when we are ready to move beyond my rights and wrongs, then these things can be even acknowledged and then worked at. So This puppet thing again in Savitri also it's there. Vishal, you say this a lot. Even in this Fiorobindo's, I think there's a sonnet, right? The stuttering eye of human self and pride is a puppet built by nature for her use. So, like you were saying, right, that how it just comes and we can feel it. So, if there's even a small stepping back, we can feel it. We can feel that how it's being, it dances me around. So, and dances as a strong compulsions bid, forcibly feeble, brilliantly obtruse. He sits within who turns on her machine, these beings portions of his mystery, many dwarf beams of his great calm sunshine, a reflex of his soul infinity. So I can identify with this, or I can just be a puppet of nature. And in Savitri also there was a beautiful line I don't recall about being puppeted. Yeah.
I think it is like a thinking puppet is the mind of life. I think. I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, but this is. I had not read this poem.
Okay, I'll
Can you
share.
post the link? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are reaching the end, and there's one thing that really helped me, and I'll just share that video because when we hear it directly, and I don't know, I haven't heard it after that in the Vipassana course. Goenka ji, the main person, he shares about how this works, how that when I am reacting, I am sowing the seeds that cause more misery, that are kind of making my whole thing more negative. And if I want that forest to be lighter and have less seeds of anger and misery, I'll have to stop planting more seeds. So we'll end the session with this video. I hope I pulled up the right thing because I haven't heard it after the session, but it looks like that to me. Okay. One second, I didn't share the sound. Yeah. So let me know if you can't hear
Your
it.
misery, not coming out of your misery. You are just trying to amend the branches, the twigs, the leaves, the flowers, the fruits of the tree. But the root is decaying, is unhealthy. So long as the root is unhealthy, your tree can never become healthy. Your conscious mind can never become healthy so long as the unconscious remains unhealthy. So Buddha found out that we have to work with the deepest unconscious level of the mind. This is what you started doing. If this point remains in your mind all the time, that I have to work with the deepest level of your mind, there are many other techniques, many other kinds of meditations. We are not here to condemn them. But so far as this technique is concerned, straight away it starts working with the depth of the mind. And if you miss that depth of the mind, our purpose is not served. Because the process of multiplication continues, sankhara after sankhara. Every moment you generate a sankhara of craving or aversion, and all the time a sankhara of ignorance, you don't know what is happening. This is misery. Every sankhara is a misery. Multiplication is there. In the outside world also, in the world of vegetation, this process of multiplication is there. So also deep inside, process of multiplication is there. And there is a way to stop this multiplication and change this habit pattern like outside world. A small seed of a banyan tree. In tropical countries, we have a very huge tree, banyan tree. Very tiny seed, size of a sesame. This small, tiny seed contains this huge banyan tree. You plant it, a tree comes out which grows so huge. And it stays for centuries. Very long life. One seed has started giving fruits. Every season, hundreds upon hundreds of fruits. And so many centuries, fruits after fruits, millions of fruits, one seed only. However long life this tree may have, a time will come when it will become old, will decay, will die, fall down, no more fruits. At the apparent level, one may say that one seed has given millions of fruits, but after all, the story ended. The story does not end. The multiplication continues. Understand how it continues. The seed that one planted and this huge banyan tree, fruits it started giving. The law of nature is such. You don't have any fruit which does not contain the seed of the same quality, one or more. Every fruit will contain seed. And again, this seed contains a huge banyan tree and millions of fruits, millions of seeds, and every seed has got a huge banyan tree. Oh, endless process of multiplication, endless process of multiplication. But nature has also helped to understand that how this process can be stopped. It is true, every seed has one huge banyan tree. But this seed requires a fertile soil. It requires water. It requires fertilizer, manure. You throw it on a rocky land, it can't grow. Banyan tree cannot come out of it. But our difficulty is that these seeds of sankharas, millions of them are coming because of our seed that we planted once. So many are coming now. And we keep on giving good fertilizer to every seed that comes. Keep on giving very fertile soil to them. Oh, my sankhara, you keep on growing. Oh, my misery, you keep on growing. You keep on growing. You keep on growing. What ignorance. This is what one keeps on doing. Like one carries a tank full of gasoline, petroleum. One spark comes from outside, comes in contact with it, and a big explosion, huge explosion. Thousands upon thousands of new sparks, without understanding that every spark that you have generated now will bring hundreds and thousands of sparks in return. And then again, every spark that comes, you will be giving all that gasoline again. Multiply, multiply, multiply. At the intellectual level, one understands this multiplication is so dangerous for me. I should not generate sankharas. Every sankhara is so harmful. Every sankhara is multiplication of my misery. And yet, it is merely an intellectual understanding. Unless you practice properly at the level of sensation, you can't come out of it. One knows very well, somebody is bringing fire towards me to burn me. The best thing is that I keep my water hose ready. When he comes, I open my water hose and extinguish the fire immediately. That one understands at the intellectual level. But at the actual level, somebody is bringing fire. I open my petrol pump. Burn, burn. I throw a bucket full of petrol over him. You burn, I burn, both of us burn. And later on you realize that was so wrong. I should not have done that. When fire was brought towards me, I should have used water to extinguish it, not the petrol. And you go to your God Almighty, to this God, that God, Goddess, and pray, I made a mistake. Please excuse me, I made a mistake. Next time, the same mistake. Next time, the same mistake. You're not coming out of it. It doesn't help. Because you don't know what is happening deep inside. Deep inside, there is always this volcanic eruption, always this negativity, the reaction of negativity, and you can't come out of it unless you start observing the sensations on the body. You have to feel the sensation, one important part of the technique. You must make your mind so sharp, so sensitive that you feel the sensations. And another part of the mind, another part of the technique, remain equanimous. Remain equanimous. Don't react. Don't react. Keep on understanding. This is anicca. This is anicca. And this is not a false belief. Don't accept because Buddha said so. Don't accept because the tradition says so. With your own experience, you find things arise. Sooner or later, they pass away. They arise, they pass away. They arise, they pass away. When everything gets dissolved, then arising and passing is with great rapidity. But the same technique, the same reality, arising, passing is there. It is anicca. It is impermanent. It is impermanent. And like this, you start changing the habit pattern at the deepest level of your mind. That is very important. One has to understand this. The moment there is some sensation or the
Yeah, so basically this seed thing, how he says that every time I'm losing it, every time I'm shouting or screaming or following any impulse, I am planting fresh seeds that I'll have to pay for, that I will have to bear. So, sometimes with my kids, especially when I'm trying to teach him, and anything he wants to do is not to do with learning, he wants to play and stuff. And sometimes after 20 polite requests, I just want to hold him and shake him. And after, especially the last one I did, I just tell myself, no more new seeds, no more new seeds. And I have to, kind of control myself sometimes. So just knowing that these are the situations that where I mostly lose them. A lot of time, praying before going into such situations with those people, with those situations, that I know this is a area for me, and please let me watch, let me be careful, let me give it the attention it needs and clear it out from my system. So the seed threat, that how the forest will keep growing, also helps as a warning to me. So yeah, so we have crossed our hour, so we'll end the session here. Beautiful discussion. Hope it helps us transcend a little, one step at a time, and we are there wherever we need to be. So thank you so much for the beautiful sharings. Thank you, Captain, for the topic. And yeah, so
Thank you.
thanking Grace, thanking the Divine for our receptivity, for our longing to transform. And if the longing is less, if it's weak, aspiring that we long more, that for this transformation that we know is needed in us, may nothing stop us on this path of transformation and getting over and above our small impulses that keep on pulling us back. So may no one suffer. May there be true peace and true joy in all our hearts. Aspiring and praying for this, for ourselves and everyone, all sentient beings.
Thank you, Taru. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank